Hey, welcome everyone to the expert talk here about testing and test automation and autonomous testing, by the way, that's newly added to the title. And this time we do have Leonardo Lanni in the call. Hey, happy to have you in the call, Leonardo.
So happy to be here, Tobias, and thanks a lot for the opportunity.
So just to bring everybody up to speed, Leonardo is an original Italian from Rome, and he lives in Barcelona since a few years. And we're going to discuss today's, or actually not discuss, but talk about his learnings over the period of 70 years, 17 years that he is in this business already. Do you want to tell our viewers a little bit about you, Leonardo?
Yeah, so thank you for the chance for introducing myself. Yeah, so I've been, as you said, for quite a while in the IT business. So originally, I grew up as a IT engineer, software developer, and I've grown up in IBM. So one of those 500 Fortune company, and that's where my background comes from. As I was working there as a developer, I had the possibility to relocate into a team that was doing performance testing, which back in the days, it was something very edgy and very innovative. And that was how I basically transitioned into quality assurance. Then what happened is I had an opportunity to work for a company in Munich, and I decided to moved from Rome to Munich. And in Germany, I basically work for different companies, and I specialize into working for startups in everything that was related to quality assurance. So progressively, I took roles that were bigger and bigger. That were involving a little bit of everything quality assurance. So people management and processes and test automation. I've been very lucky to have the opportunity to cover different roles where I could do a little bit of everything, and that was really the exciting part of my role. I work internationally, so I could meet a lot of very cool people. And then what happened in 2018, I decided to relocate from Munich to Barcelona, which was something that I could do internally with the job that I had at that time. And and later, basically, in Barcelona, I decided to, it was about time for the experience level that I reached so far to, become a freelance and start working individually rather than as a classic employee. So since 2019, what I do is basically I help companies, normally small, medium enterprises, but it could be really any type of clients with any topic related to quality engineering, quality assurance, software testing. And I really, enjoyed doing that because, when you work on different projects and different clients, you can really see how different companies can, face similar problems, but every company has, a different flavor and a different methodology. Of course, not to mention that everything has changed since, the AI revolution. So now I can see, clients trying to embark the AI, and everybody's doing differently. Some companies are embracing it, other companies are more like old fashioned and resistant to that. But it's definitely something that it's helping me personally in my role. And yeah, I'm currently working on a project for a Swiss company doing something for related to cybersecurity and phishing, which is very interesting. And yeah, and that's why we're here having our conversation with you, Tobias.
That is a long list of experience, right? But that is actually quite cool because most of the time, like in testing, there's typically you don't have those like 17 years is a long time of doing some profession, right? But mostly in testing, you either have these extreme old guys, they are doing it for 40, 45 years already, that are completely fixed in their mindset, or you have these extreme youngsters that want to become developers or project leads or whatever they want to become in the IT business, but they just use testing as an entrance door. And typically you don't have those people that actually move into testing, stick into testing, but are not that old that they are already completely narrowed down on how something should work. And I love the thing that you said, hey, there's this AI revolution going on, and that changes it, and that is also challenging me and how I work with the situation or how I work with the companies. But getting back to your experience actually is, you said like you are a freelancer since 2019, and you are seeing different customers with similar problems but different approaches, different methodologies. So there's this one unique, let's say, overall question that everybody wants to address is like, who owns quality?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And I think depending on the answer to this question, you can really check the maturity level of a company and the success rate. So, my personal and short answer is quality belongs to everybody in a team. I really mean everybody, and I really mean everybody should feel accountable and responsible to contribute to deliver quality. So to me, those were the days where developers used to build stuff and throw it over the fence to the pool testers and say, guys, please test it and come back with bugs or findings or feedback or whatsoever. So this is exactly where we no company should be at anymore, because these silos, let's say, approach in quality, that we have a department responsible to validate the quality of our product. This is a road to nowhere. The To me, the secret sauce for a company to deliver great products and services is to make everybody feel accountable for the quality. So whatever, no matter what my job is, I have to do the extra mile to make sure that what I deliver is quality. And the quality assurance department should be, the safety net, that if something, falls through, no, okay, great. We still have, some expert people there that can, make sure everything is all right. But developers should really have the attitude that I could, in theory, deliver my work in a way that even if there was no QA department, I would be confident that this is great quality, because I spend time in checking the quality of my work, and I really, I I tested myself. I try to think on what could go wrong, and I done a lot of work that would validate the quality of my deliverables. And then, of course, there will be a phase in the development life cycle. There will be a team whose main responsibility is to validate the what is being built. But nevertheless, there should be a sort of a positive challenge by the developers, like, hey, this is the functionality. I really think it's working fine, but please try and test it and see if you can find anything. And so that could be, that should be a sort of like challenging the testers to find something of course, in a very positive way. um, on the other hand, companies where the developers, they really do the minimum, because they're junior, they're rushing, they don't really understand what quality means, and they just write down the little piece of code and give it to the testers without even having done a minimum basic testing. Yeah, this is a problem, and unfortunately, I still have seen that in some projects, that where really developers are expecting QA to be the controller of quality, and they don't care about what they deliver because they know there is another department doing the verification, which I think it's a real road to nowhere.
That is an interesting answer, and there are multiple points in that answer that I would love to go a bit deeper on, because you said like
Hmm.
the team should own the quality, but then in the follow-on
Hmm.
answers you always mentioned the developers, right? And that is what you typically hear, is that the team is more or less like the developers and the testers, or in some scenarios you talk about agile teams, scrum teams, like there's a scrum master who also can control that a little bit, and you
Hmm.
hear about quality coaches, and meanwhile I also heard about quality masters. So the former test manager is now a quality master because the master is an agile role. But the thing is, what I always think about is like, if we talk about everybody should own quality, so doesn't that include marketing, sales, even the owner of the business? Shouldn't that include, really, like, if you say everyone, shouldn't that include
Yes.
everyone? Because most of the time I just hear like, yeah, the developers should test their stuff before, and that's a given, right? If I mean, if you deliver something to testers that doesn't work, I guess you didn't do your job as a developer. So the thing is really like, does everybody really include everybody, and it's just omitted typically in those answers?
Yes, I completely agree with you. So my clearly the easy example is to involve developers into that, but you Tobias, you make a very good point. Really, quality belongs to everybody. From yes, the product, for instance, so product owners or the CPOs, or head of product. Um, and an example is really like, when I'm thinking in a classic agile development cycle. Sometimes, you have a feature. The feature gets sliced into those tickets, typically Jira tickets or whatever tool the company is using. Sometimes in some companies, the description of a feature, it's not done in a very good way, and that leaves a lot of room for interpretation to the developers that don't really understand what the product is really having in mind and what they want to build. So exactly, so quality belongs to everybody means at any level of the chain, of the pipeline of producing something, which everybody should really aim to deliver things in a great way. In this other example that I'm providing is, if the way POs describe a feature is not done properly, this may end up in a poorly implemented feature because it's not clear what they really want to do. So it's another example. To your point, marketing also has a very, very important, influence over quality, because at the end of the day they also need to provide a great job into doing the marketing for the product or for the service. If this is not done the proper way, the perceived quality of the product or of the service will be affected. So I completely agree on what you say. So no matter, I really think that whichever role you pick in a company, um, directly or indirectly, but at some level, there will be consequences on the quality of the outcome. So depending on how good they deliver their work, there will be a positive or a negative consequence on the final outcome quality of the product or of the service. So I absolutely agree with you.
Yeah, and that is what I would love to see, is actually more involvement of all of those different disciplines in quality, because everybody talks about owning quality and then comes up
Hmm.
with everybody in the team. But I love your answer, actually. That is exactly the point, because one of your learnings, and that is why I even thought about the question. One of your learnings in those 17 years is that you should involve the possible client, the potential client, as soon as possible in this whole life cycle. And I thought about that, and it's like, whenever I were in projects in the past years, it's actually pretty difficult to get the customer in as early as possible. Yeah, you can do those requirement workshops, and you can also get them to some agile meetings where it's about, okay, we show you the features, but to really involve them in quality, that is something that I find extremely tricky. And that's why I asked this thing, can you involve somebody else from your own company? Because that should be easier, that are actually acting like the end user and marketing and sales would be people that actually understand the market and should know how real users should use actually the system. But that brings me to the point on your learnings is actually, so how what are your tricks actually to get clients in projects as early as possible?
Well, to me, one very simple trick would be very honest to tell the client, the return on investment into doing that. The clearly, the earlier the client gets involved, the earlier the client can see what is being produced and can provide feedback, and and say, yes, I'm very happy, or no, there is a gap in the quality, or I'm not expecting this, I'm expecting something else. So one has to say to the client, yes, it is effort, because it's, getting you involved in early in the life cycle takes your time, your energy, and effort. But on the other hand, this would basically make sure that what the team is trying to build, it matches the expectation of the client. And if there is a gap, the gap can be taken as soon as possible, where let's say the gap between the expectation and the actual provided outcome, it's still it's going into different direction, but the difference is still relatively small. And then it basically means that there is already something that can be done to adjust the direction to go into the same one. And on the other hand, one can provide the example if the involvement of the client happens too late, the gap is already too big, and the cost of fixing the difference between the expected and the actual situation could be too high, or it could take a long time. So to me, it's as simple as explain the final client the advantage of onboarding them very early. And this can be done also in a relatively simple way. I saw companies doing at the end of the, say, 2 weeks agile iterations, you can have like a, I don't know, 1 hour demo meeting, show everything that was done, and just basically ask the client to formally sign off what was done, or to say the things that they're not happy with, so that can be highly prioritized in the next iteration, and be fixed. I think being honest and on about the advantages of having a early feedback loop would typically bring the client in this type of loop. Of course, if it's not possible, all we have to say, it's all we have to do is be honest with the client and say, well, worst case scenario, if we identify a gap too late, it will take more time and more cost to be fixed than if we had identified that earlier in the process.
That's also brilliant. But let me ask my one follow-up question on that one is, so
Hmm.
now you explained how to get the client on board. But I've seen
Hmm.
projects where I would say, like, how do you get actually the team on board to allow the client to see those demos? Because from a development point of view, those demos in agile teams are mostly like a stripped down, right? Because you actually show what you have without
Hmm.
adding all the bells and whistles around it. So it's really like that is the functionality that we deliver today, and the customers are sitting right in front of it and experiences it firsthand. And it might be that it breaks completely down during the demonstration, and just that just leaves a bad, or that might leave a bad smell. and and I've seen teams that are hesitating from actually being that transparent and being that open, because you mentioned it, like quality comes from transparency. Let's show the customer what we
Mhm.
have right now. Let's show where we are. Let's get input from the customer. So how did you ever experience anything in that direction, that actually the people that are developing the product are hesitating from being that open, inviting the client to those demos?
No, actually, I have to say I've not experienced this because actually
Mhm.
it's more the other way around. So I understand what you mean. You know, the fear of showing something too early that can have I don't know. It's like you're building a nice car and you show the client the prototype, which is camouflage and covered, and the client may say, "Hey, that's not what I want." But the deal is saying the client, "Hey, this is a work in progress, but at least you can have an initial feeling on how the final thing will look like." And we have a lot of there are a lot of possibilities of mocking, of prototyping, and still we're able to a lot of times in projects to build something that can resemble the final shape even not being yet there. But if that is not possible, again, I think honesty is always the best policy. So I would basically tell the development team, don't worry about showing a work in progress thing to the client, because it's we're working in an incremental way. So we're building these step by step, and of course, by showing the client a very early stage of the product, we we we're showing something that is way before the final completion. And on the other hand, also telling the client the same, like, dear client, by involving you in an early stage, we make sure that we can close any gap as soon as possible, which is great. On the other hand, please be aware that it's you're looking at the construction site, so a lot of things are not yet there. So you need to use your imagination to feel how the product will be at the end, and be open, and this is just a work in progress part. So I think I saw projects where basically there was the product owner, or a similar role was the deputy at the client, and they were having this type of discussion, so explaining the client, especially when the client is not really used to the agile way of working. But eventually, as long as the client is open-minded to work in that way, they finally see the advantages of getting involved very early in the development process.
Yeah, that is actually good advice. So that makes me think. It's like, and I'm asking myself how we can actually round up this first session. And um, what I what I personally want to ask everyone that I'm talking with is, and it's also about quality, is, do you think that the software quality increased over the last, let's say, 5 to 7 years? We can also make that 10. Do you think that software became better from a quality point of future?
It is a very, very good question, and I am personally I am in two minds, because I always think the way we build products now versus, for instance, before having the possibility of updating things over the internet at any time. I have an example of something that I think is very, very fascinating. Um, PlayStation 2. So the PlayStation 2 was actually, I think, the last console that was built before, having those devices that can be updated over the internet. I don't think, as far as I'm concerned, you could update a PS2 over the internet. So that hardware was designed to be perfect because there was no basically possibility to update it. I mean, if there was a some failure, that would have been a disaster because I imagine that Sony would have need to recall all the faulty consoles and replace them for free to the client and so on and so forth. So I really think that back in the days the quality must have been almost perfect, because otherwise the cost of fixing things because of low quality would have been horrendous. I don't know if you remember the Pentium 60 issue.
The one
I
with the
think it was
FDiff
30
bug.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, oh my god. I was actually I was one of them. I had a one of those buggy processor, because I was waiting for to get from my dad my new computer, and my dad was, I don't get a 486, a Pentium is coming, and so on and so forth. So I was so excited. I got the Pentium 60, which was the very first one. And after a while, I read on one of those magazines way before the internet, there was a bug and whatever. And there was even a way to check the bug. You needed to open the calculator, type in a very simple calculation. If the result was something, that was the bug. And I got exactly that problem. So I remember that Intel needed to ship me over post a brand new processor with a fix, and that would have costed them huge money, because I was thinking scale up to the number of clients that bought those buggy processors. So all of this to say, I think back in the days, the quality, I have a feeling that could have been better than now, simply because there was no way to fix problems in case something was already released in production. While now, we're in a very different mindset, because we're in the hey, I need to go to the market as fast as possible, because the first company that goes to the market gets the clients, and then and then you make the money. So everything is accelerated, everything is fast. Therefore, we develop a lot of great methodologies for quality, but on the other end, we also compromise a lot to accept that something can go in production with not critical bugs, which will be fixed in the next version. So everything is incremental, but it's probably the yes, we have way more powerful quality assurance methodologies, a lot of automation. On the other end, we need progressively, every time we update any of our application on our mobile devices, we get a lot of bugs fixed, but also we may have new bugs introduced by new functionalities. So it's a little bit of a paradox, this question. I would say pros and cons in and I would say for certain aspects the quality has improved. For others, probably the way things were done before, they were more mission critical and more really designed to be perfect and durable over time.
Understood. Yeah, and thanks for reminding me to this FDiff bug. Actually, I think I was 12 when that happens,
Yeah.
and also moving to the Pentium and actually doing exactly the same. I still remember that you did something in the Windows calculator, and it showed this freaking result. True, true.
Exactly. Yes.